We can now bring in Markus Ziener, Helmut Schmidt Fellow at the German Marshall Fund of the United States. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us here on France 24. Defense ministers from a host of countries, including NATO states, met at Germany's Ramstein Air Base last Friday. No decision was made on providing tanks to Ukraine. What changed between last Friday and today?
Well, I think the key for this decision was actually lying in the United States, in Washington. As soon as the United States was saying, well, we're providing our Abrams tanks to Ukraine, and the Germans went along. So I think it really came down to the Americans.
There seems to be an acknowledgement from Berlin that its actions could be viewed as provocative. When Chancellor Scholz spoke, he called on his citizens to trust him. Is Germany aware that this action risks retaliation from Moscow?
Well, there was a lot of speculation going on in the past days. What's really happening in Scholz's mind, so to say, because what made him being so hesitant, and why didn't he speak up on what's really making it so hard for him to take this decision? Was there some conversation between the Russians and the Germans that made him worry too much? Was it actually what the population in Germany is thinking about going further into this war with our Leopard tanks, which could be seen as an escalation, at least from the Russian side? You know that the German population is rather torn, rather split actually in two more or less even groups of people who think, okay, we've done enough, we should not do more in terms of sending tanks, and another half saying, well, we have to help the Ukrainians more than we already did. So I think he was looking at this, and that was the main reason he was so hesitant.
Over the past year, we can say Paris and Berlin have been more reticent when it comes to jumping to Ukraine support. They've been more on the fence, more pragmatic, some could argue. However, this latest action will be seen by Moscow, as I said, as an escalation. But last week I spoke to an analyst and he said, if we look ahead, look at peace talks, for instance, you first need to de-escalate and then you can have peace talks. But it seems like peace talks are not on the table right now when it comes to of importance, really, for Germany.
Well, I mean, I think that all has to be seen on the background that Russia is getting ready for a new offense. I mean, they announced that they will mobilize another couple of 100,000 of new soldiers. They haven't started yet, but I think that's something that's on the horizon. So I think Ukraine is standing actually with the back to the wall, and we have to help them here. I mean, on the other hand, when it comes to France and Germany, the interesting thing is that France is actually giving less aid, less weapons to Ukraine than Germany. France is getting away with that much better. I think that has a lot to do with the communication skills of Mr. Macron, or the lack thereof from Mr. Scholz.
Well, why is it just? Does it just come down to bad communication on the part of the Germans that they get unnecessarily singled out?
Well, it's more than that, of course, but communication is of the essence here, because the Germans look like as if they're not doing really much by themselves. They always get pushed. There's a lot of pressure exerted on the Germans until they really help more to the Ukrainians. So that's at least the image, that is the perception of Germany from other people and from abroad. And I think that's not entirely fair. I think Germany is slow and it's taking a lot of time. And Scholz today, he made it clear that this is one of the principles actually of his way of governing, to be very considerate and to think about things very long and hard. On the other hand, I think you can address what you do in a more self-confident and more open way in order to make clear that Germany is not sitting on the fence. Actually, Germany is doing quite a lot.
Markus, I want to know about German public opinion when it comes to sending these tanks to Ukraine. We had Chancellor Scholz, who called on his citizens to trust him and his government, saying he's doing nothing without consulting Germany's partners. Where does public opinion stand on this issue?
Yeah, as I said earlier, it's actually pretty much split in half. So it means that, in particular, in the eastern part of Germany, I think there's even a majority of people saying that we should be more cautious. We should not go all in Ukraine and support Ukraine with all we have. And there are the others who are saying, well, we have to do more. So he is indeed the German public is very much undecided, actually, whether we're entering now into a path that probably can lead to something that is much more dangerous than we've seen so far. Just one word on the term escalation. I mean, let's not forget the escalation is actually coming from Russia. It's not coming from the West. So I think sending Leopard tanks is not an escalation. The Russians, they love to have this narrative that we are escalating, but I think it's just the other way around. It's true.
Very briefly from you, we have seen Russia in the past make threats. Do you think it's just bluster from Moscow even now?
Well, that's I don't have a crystal ball. I think the threats are on the table. You have to see very thoroughly, and you have to look very thoroughly where those threats are coming from.
Okay.
Many of those threats are coming from propagandists in Russia. They are very vocal, and they're talking about using nuclear weapons and these kind of things. I think that they're clearly designed to intimidate the West. So you have to see that, you have to take that into account. But on the other hand, you don't have to be too much intimidated by those threats. We don't really know what's going on behind the Kremlin walls. It's a little bit of guesswork, I'm afraid.
Markus Ziener, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on the program today.